All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth, and there was some real football down there at Gillette Stadium today on the backfields, hot backfields, temperatures in the 90s. But first day of pads, fully padded practice for training camp practice number 5. So we are here to break down all of it, finally get into some real trench talk. Not much from the quarterbacks. I think Drake May only threw like 6 passes and 11 on 11. So a lot of focus in the run game on the trenches today. But unfortunately, we'll start out with some bad news too, because Christian Gonzalez left pretty early with a left leg, maybe hamstring. Don't want to speculate, but he was definitely grabbing that left leg. So it was on a crosser route covering Stephon Diggs. He kind of pulled up lame, hobbled down to the medical shed with some trainers afterwards, and then never came back, departed practice. So hopefully it's nothing major. Again, it was hot, cramping, maybe just a minor hamstring injury, but those soft tissue injuries to pop up this early, especially for a player of Christian Gonzalez's importance and magnitude on this team and defense as a whole. Not a great start there, again, on the second play of competitive teamwork in your first padded practice here today.
Yeah, and it's not even, it was the first day of pads, but it wasn't a collision play. It's something that could happen any day. It seemed like he just kind of came up limping a little bit after a rep. Again, as we're recording this, there's been no update. So you hope it's just a strain or, even just a cramp. Again, it was a hot day, but we'll see. I don't read too much into him not returning to practice. That's a guy that, heavy focus on the run game, which isn't necessarily something he's going to be super involved in. You don't want to stress him extra. Not a guy that needs the reps. I would rather they be more cautious and not rush him back.
Yeah. And you talk about cautious, like, see you September 7th, maybe.
Christian right, Gonzalez. Really, yeah.
Like, what do they gain? Unless it's something like if it is a cramp, like, okay, you can get back out here. But if it is any sort of strain or tweak, or if he pulled a hamstring or calf or whatever, like, we're Christian Gonzalez is one of the least guys we're worried about. Like, we'll see you opening day, September 7th. So I'd imagine they do play this pretty cautious with him, but hopefully we get an update or no update. No update might be good news moving forward. And if something pops up throughout this show, we will definitely bring that right up to attention there. But unfortunate to kind of start with Christian Gonzalez going out with an injury, but hopefully nothing major there again. But let's transition. Let's get right into some trench talk, Barth, because we had the pads. We can now evaluate some of the performance from the offensive line, and we'll start with, of course, number 4 overall pick. Will Campbell had a good welcome to your first padded practice moment and one-on-ones going against Keon White. The one-on-one ended with Campbell getting shoved down to his knee, but I thought he rebounded really well, especially going to team drills, a lot of run game again, where you watch him at LSU, really good, maybe an underrated run defender, with his power, athleticism. I thought you saw him caving in blocks, put Milton Williams on the ground a couple times, and then again, Drake only threw 5 or 6 passes, but seemed to hold his own. Got Keon White once on the final one, which was a touchdown to Jalen Polk, who was back, which we'll talk about. But I thought overall, like, for a young rookie and your first NFL fully padded practice, like, it was some encouraging stuff from Will Campbell today.
Yeah, not gonna lie, it was a little nerve-wracking after Keon White really just put him on skates on that one-on-one. But yeah, once they got in a team, he was really good and dominated the run game, which we know he can do. Like you say, he folded Milton Williams over twice. One time he got a little help from Jared Wilson, but that's kind of how that thing's gonna look. You run to the left side, you want those guys to cave it in. So I thought that was encouraging. Like you said, stood a couple guys up in pass pro. Now, he was on the backside of play action. It's going to be a lot more telling when they get into traditional dropbacks and he has to hold a pocket. I think that's kind of what we're all waiting to see. That's the big evaluation point. That's the really the unknown in his game as it comes to the NFL level. But everything else, he looked good. He looked like a first-round pick. He looked like a top 10 pick, the way he was absolutely clearing room in the run game.
Definitely. So, but again, as you said, we knew he was a good run blocker. It's always good to see it then transitioning to the NFL level with the full pads. And now, when we get into those real kind of drop back situations for Drake, that will be the next test for Will Campbell. But again, for your first fully padded practice as a rookie. I thought he was very competitive and impressive for the most part. Besides, that one against Keon White, he did end on the ground a couple times in team drills, but throughout, I thought it was an impressive start for him. But the rest of that offensive line, the starting group opened the same: Cole Strange at left guard, Garrett Bradbury center, Micah Winu right guard, Morgan Moses right tackle. We still got a lot of Jared Wilson. He would check in. They would go the starting 5 for 2 plays. Jared Wilson would check in at left guard for 2 plays, and then he would move to center for 2 plays. And Caden Wallace would come in with the first team at left guard, which was the first time, he's been working at left guard a lot, but he hasn't been up, playing next to Will Campbell. So Caden Wallace definitely in that competition. I thought Jared Wilson, another bad snap, which is the second one with him, and he put one on the ground, but I thought he had some good moments in the run game as well, pulling a couple times. But what do you think, looking especially that left guard and center, it feels like, maybe there's 4 names in that mix now, and this still feels like a big spot, big question mark on the offensive line in that competition.
Yeah, Caden Wallace getting those reps was interesting. I just think on Wilson, you see how his athleticism plays in the run game, whether it be from center or left guard. But I said this, we were talking about it last week. He was getting all these reps, which is great, but he has to justify it when the pads come on and show that he can be the player that deserves those reps. For the most part, he has, but you can't. It's 2 bad snaps in 2 weeks, right? So if he can't get the ball back to the quarterback, now you maybe start taking a longer look at him at guard, and would still be a good guard, but it kind of limits you there. Caden Wallace sliding in is interesting because, look, if he is going to play center, and then it's Cole Strange. We know Cole Strange's injury history, so now it's important you have a good backup in that spot and testing Caden Wallace there. So I think they just want to be ready. There could be some movement at those spots as the season goes on. But no, I thought outside of the bad snap, and that's not to say, look, the bad snap holds weight, but that was really the only down play of the day for Wilson. It's a notable down play, but it was the only down play. His athleticism again in the run game is just really impressive how he can use that.
Definitely. Yeah. Like they got him on the move a couple times and he pops kind of in those situations. So those are the 4 names that are, left guard and center. We'll see how those shake out. And then the right side, Big Mike locked in that right guard spot. Looks good. He had a good one-on-one win. Seems like that's good for him that he's finally settled, bumping all over the place, gets to just settle and focus at right guard. And then Morgan Moses still kind of easing him in. You still see DeMontre Jacobs mix in at some points. I'd say it's been pretty inconsistent for Moses, if that's a fair way to put it. But, he is, going into year 12. He's coming off the procedure. Maybe he's still ramping things up a little bit. But when there are, we said again, 5-6 passes, most of the pressure has seemed to come off the right side today, and even dating back to, the first 4 days of non-padded practice. Are you any bit concerned, with Morgan Moses and that, okay, we are rolling with a 34-year-old, 12-year starter, and DeMontre Jacobs seems like the next man up, and he hasn't looked great in his relief appearances. Has the right tackle position maybe jumped up on your worry list at all throughout the first 5 days here?
I mean, it's definitely something to watch. And I don't think, I liked the Morgan Moses signing, but I think that comes with he's 34 years old. You're kind of hoping he bounces back. He's a guy that's been pretty durable throughout his career, but you need that to continue. I would have liked to see them do more to get a backup, especially if Caden Wallace now is just going to be a guard. I wonder if maybe if they get that worried about DeMontre Jacobs, if Caden Wallace goes back outside to tackle. But yeah, it was notable that Morgan Moses did not have a great day the first full day of pads. I think that did stick out. And some of that may be, we can get to Caleb Von Chase on, was really good today, but it's definitely something you want to keep an eye on.
Yep. I did think it was, the pass pro was a little shaky in the minimum passes, but I thought a lot of run plays, down in the red area, first fully padded practice. That's what you kind of expect. I thought it was a good back and forth. Would you say like it was a competitive, both sides had their moments. Like you had Will Campbell pushing in some guys, but then you had, the defensive line, Kyrus Tonga playing a lot with Christian Barmore limited. Like I thought for the most part, it was a pretty good back and forth. There were a good amount of run stuff, so maybe slight win advantage to the defense, but I did think the O-line had some moments themselves with some good push in the ground game.
I thought it was relatively balanced. I think with the top unit, the offense, I gave a slight advantage. I think for that second unit, it was the defense that had the advantage. But it was pretty back and forth.
Yeah. And definitely better for the offensive line and teams compared to one-on-ones. Like Garrett Bradbury got beat bad by Tonga in one-on-ones, but he seemed a little bit better in teamwork. We mentioned Will Campbell, so good. I would say it was a good kind of baseline for your first padded practice.
Yeah.
Not perfect as you would expect, but kind of a good launch point. You hope there for them to continue to build some momentum, maybe get those starting five, those two positions settled, and kind of move forward. So, some good play in the trenches. We'll get to the defensive linemen a little bit more. You mentioned Chason, but I do want to talk wide receivers. And again, we keep saying it, not a lot of passes today, but Jalen Polk back on the field for the first padded practice was encouraging. He caught a touchdown to end Drake May's day on a nice kind of play action fake down there within the 10-yard line, wide open in the back left corner of the end zone. And I thought kind of the thing that stood out to me most in the wide receiver room, they had 8 guys working in with Drake May throughout the day. It was kind of the top 5 that you would expect that we talk a lot about. And then you still have Baker and Efton Chisholm getting the occasional snap with Drake May, and then Jalen Polk back today get some snaps with Drake May. So it feels like they're giving all these guys kind of a fair shake at things, and we'll kind of see. We've talked. Are they going to keep 6, 7? It just feels like when we knew the wide receiver room, there was going to be a lot of competition. But just seeing 7, 8 guys working with Drake May now with Polk back, that kind of stood out to me today in a day that they weren't very active because there was a lot of run stuff.
No, it's true. And we knew they had a lot to sort through and they got to get to it. I guess the good thing is that all those guys are working with Drake May a little bit. So whoever does make the team has chemistry. The thing is, the guys who don't make the team, are they getting significant reps where Drake May could be working more with guys he's actually going to be throwing to? But today was the day more to rotate through again because there was so much focus on the run game. We'll see when they get more into the pass if that rotation shrinks up at all.
Yep. And then Mac Hollins will factor into that at some point too. So add another piece of the puzzle. Anything, I was mostly watching O-line, D-line one-on-ones. I don't know. Did you catch any wide receiver, corners, running backs, linebackers, any of those pass catchers, one-on-ones? Anything stand out to you?
Yeah. So it felt like it was mostly the defense winning, which is rare in a one-on-one pass catching setting. DJ James, who's kind of come on strong here the last few days, had a really good breakup on Kyle Williams in the back corner. Kayshon Boutte caught a ball over Christian Gonzalez in the back corner on a fade. That was a nice catch from him. He got his feet down.
Beat him another time too, didn't he? Didn't he have 2 wins?
Yeah, I think he beat him twice, but that one was like really nice. That one stood out. And then you had Antonio Gibson with a good choice route on Christian Ellis to separate, did like 3 cuts at the top of the route and got away from Ellis to catch a touchdown. So off the top of my head, those are the ones that stood out to me.
Yeah. DJ James, you mentioned him. He's been kind of an under the radar guy early throughout. First interception of Cam, had a pass breakup the other day. And then had a couple, I think he got Kyle Williams too on one-on-ones. He broke one up going to the ground. So he's been, climbing that corner depth chart maybe. And now you look Christian Gonzalez. We still haven't seen Carlton Davis in a couple of days. So there are spots to be won. It was a lot of Alex Austin, Marcellus Dial, and Marcus Jones. Dial had a good day and kind of that nickel spot active in the run game. So there could be some spots
James
there.
did get a couple of reps after Gonzalez went out. It wasn't a lot, but he got a couple in with that group.
Yeah. So he's been kind of an underrated guy there who's been making some positive momentum there in the cornerback room. But the only other one-on-ones, I was mostly again in the trenches. I saw Efton Chisholm had a nice win against Alex Austin. Seems Travion Henderson beat Mapu once, I believe, on one of those choice routes, which is always tough for the defenders. But you see that wiggle in Travion Henderson and that pass catching ability. So good stuff there in the one-on-ones. Just anything from Drake or any of the quarterbacks at all. Again, it was a very quiet day for the most part, but anything from any of those guys. Dobbs ended his day with a touchdown to G. Scott, kind of similar, one of those play action boots, but anything quarterback related from today's run heavy session.
Drake made a nice throw to Stephon Diggs over the middle. I'd say just as a whole, a lot of play action, a lot of boots, maybe indicative of what Josh McDaniels is installing. That they're going to move Drake May around and use his legs, and that will help kind of offset the opposing pass rush and make up for some of the weaknesses they have on the offensive line.
Yep. All right. Anything else offensive related? I mean, speaking of the backs, a lot of Ramondre, a lot of Antonio Gibson, especially with that first unit. And then, you saw Travion Henderson kind of man the second unit. But not too much of performance stuff, I would say, out of those guys. But that seemed kind of like the pecking order. But anything else with those backs or offensive related from your point of view today?
No, I think that's it.
All right, so let's jump over, talk a little bit more about the defense. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks. Do you know ball? Because the football season is right around the corner, and we can start putting Drake May, Stephon Diggs, all those Patriots into our Prize Picks lineup. But now we're continuing with summer baseball, and you can spice up the action on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Just pick more or less this summer on player stats like hits, home runs, strikeouts, and more for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today, and even take advantage of their weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where each Tuesday projections can be discounted from 15 to 25%. We're rolling with Roman Anthony still. Hopefully he's healthy. I think it was his foot that was getting looked at by the trainers the other day or yesterday for the Red Sox game, but he's back to hitting. Nice triple off the Green Monster, pretty rare. So we're still rolling with that. More than half a hit, or you can put 1.5 total bases, 1.5 RBIs, half a home run if you're feeling really risky. But Roman Anthony heating up, such fun at bats to watch. So put him in your lineup, pair that with someone else for a winner there. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup, all over on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. Back to the defense. We'll start with the trenches again, because that's where most of the action was. You mentioned K'Lavon Chaisson, maybe foreshadowing plugger of the day, one of the best players on the field today. Like, clean win over Marcus Bryant and one-on-ones, and then you go to full team, maybe 2 pressures, 2 would-be sacks if it was full action. He has been very impressive this whole camp, and we've talked about he ended last year in Vegas strong. He's still 20, he just turned 26. He's still young, former first-round pick. Like, can they get more out of him and build off that end to last season? And he's had a great start to camp, so I would say the K'Lavon Chaisson stocks are going up, and today certainly helped that cause.
And he's one of those guys that, I don't want to say I was expecting him to suck today, but he's a speed player. He's a speed player, and that's the kind of guy when the pads come on, usually you get a reality check about. And instead, he had his best day of the summer. So the fact that he won with his style today, blew by Morgan Moses, had a really good win in one-on-one. Yeah, that's encouraging. I thought he had a really good day, and the circumstances in which he had a good day matters.
Definitely. So, yeah, the speed thing's a good point, because that is kind of how he wins, and the fact that he was still able to make that impact in a more physical practice was very encouraging. So he's really stood out along the edge. Elsewhere on the D line, Christian Barmore was limited again, so no team period work for him, as he said this was their plan for him with the blood clots. So a lot of Milton Williams, a lot of Kairos Tonga on the inside. We mentioned Milton Williams, kind of got pushed over by Will Campbell a couple times. That was the real question with him. We know he can get after the passer. We've seen him get after the passer, but the run defense, right? He was really efficient at it in 23. His role kind of changed in Philly last year in 24, where, okay, it was go get after the quarterback. Don't worry so much about the run defense. But now gets paid $100 million. He's going to be this 70, 75, 80% player. You need Milton Williams to get back to that level and the efficiency of against the run, but more in a full-time role. Did you see that from him today, or did you think for the most part he was kind of getting pushed around a bit?
Yeah, it was not a great day for Milton Williams. It wasn't. And look, Will Campbell's a really good run blocker, but he kind of got knocked around by both rookies, by Jared Wilson as well. So that's my biggest question about this defense is, can they stop the run? And in particular, can Milton Williams be a running down player? Because he wasn't in Philly, but with what he's getting paid, he can't be a situational player. Look, if he sucks against the run, you're going to have to not put him on the field in those situations. You can't just put him out there knowing he'll fail because we paid him, right? But that's a guy they're planning on being a big factor in their run defense. And yeah, he did not look good. I mean, a couple guys didn't look good against the run today, but he did not look good against the run today.
Yeah. I feel like more the run defense issues were along the interior. And now you hope, you add Christian Barmore to that mix when he's ready to go in the regular season, and that improves things. But, we've talked a lot about Milton Williams. We've talked about Tonga. Can he be more of a rotational, never played more than, 36% of a team's defensive snaps? I think the number is like, can he be your third rotational guy and your main run stuffer along that defensive line? So you hope Barmore, in his breakout year, very good against the run. You hope that helps, but definitely still some question marks there. I thought Keon White was very good. We mentioned the one-on-one win, but he's continuing to be active along the defensive line. But anyone else, or the other note I had on the D line was, and this was with the backup unit, which is almost unfair because Anthony Jennings has been one of maybe the best run defenders along the edge in football the last few years. So running him against the backups is tough for those tackles, but they ran a play, I think it was a toss play to the right at him, and he blew that up. So he's a good football player. It's still the scheme thing with him, the change, how does it fit his kind of skill set and play style? But Anthony Jennings can make plays against the run. So I don't know if that just observing that going forward, if they do find a fit and role for him, I think will be interesting.
He had a really good day today. He was flying around, and considering how much they struggled stopping the run on other parts of the field, that's a good case for him. The other guy, Joshua Farmer, had a couple run stops. He did have one play where he kind of got manhandled at the point of attack, but then he had a couple plays where he was right in there on the run as well. So, that's a guy that might need to step up, right? If Milton Williams can't stop the run, well, who else is going to get a shot? Farmer was a pretty good run player at Florida State. He's probably, if not one of the next guys, the next guy that would get a look. So he could be a sneaky important player for them, which isn't great for a 4th round pick. Like, you kind of want those guys to be able to ease in, but if it doesn't work out with Milton Williams, I wonder if Joshua Farmer is the next guy up.
Yeah, definitely encouraging. Other rookie, I thought Braden Swinson was on the quieter side today, but you hope that's just first pad of practice, adjusting to the speed of things. So hope he continues to, or hope he can build off that moving forward and make more of an impact in the pass rush and such. But someone did ask, just to clarify, what's the deal with Christian Barmore? He seems healthy. He said he's full go, he's good, but they developed this sort of plan just to help him in his comeback from the blood clot. So it feels like he will just be limited every so often. Now, the limited is still, he's on the other field, working pretty hard with like a trainer. He's going one-on-one pass rush drills. He still does the end of practice conditioning. So, but it just feels like they're going to limit maybe his competitive team reps at points throughout the summer while he ramps back up from those blood clots. But no setbacks. That's the big thing. There's no setbacks. This is kind of a set plan for him moving forward. So good news on Barmore with that. But what about behind the defensive line? Anything with those linebackers? No Jelani Tavai today after he left the last practice early. Looked like he maybe re-aggravated that calf injury. Anything from the linebackers stand out to you? Robert Spillane obviously playing a big role. Anything next to him?
Yeah, I mean, he just still has a ton of energy and flies around, and I can't wait to watch him actually tackle. Yeah. He was jacked up today. There were a couple of plays where it felt like, he was ready to hit somebody. He didn't, but he was ready to hit somebody. So still very encouraged by what I've seen from him. But I don't know anything specific today.
Yeah, not much from that group. Still a lot of Christian Ellis just involved on the field. But yeah, nothing too much from that group. But the secondary, we kind of talked about life without Christian Gonzalez and life without Carlton Davis, with both of them out today. It was, Austin, Marcellus Dial, Marcus Jones,
a little bit of DJ James.
DJ James worked into that mix as well. But I guess just as a whole, how do you feel about the depth of that group? And now they're going to get tested, it seems. So how do you feel about the depth of those cornerbacks?
Well, look, you lose your first 2 guys and it's not going to look pretty, but it doesn't look pretty. So maybe that's somewhere they go add elsewhere. I don't know. Like, if Gonzalez is only going to miss 2 weeks, whatever. And Carlton Davis, I think they knew that, he has a history of getting banged up, but maybe they go add, maybe they see it as these guys are still good to go for week 1. I don't know. But it's definitely eye-opening. It's going to give us a better look at some of these depth corners, that's for sure.
Yeah, they'll get good tests going forward. So it'll be a good look at some of these guys.
Yeah.
I guess the one name that I guess I've been a little bit surprised hasn't been more involved was Isaiah Bolden. He just doesn't seem to be in that mix very much, and now he's maybe been passed by a guy like DJ James in that room. So, but because it's been a lot of Austin's been pretty consistently, I would say, the fourth guy, and then Dial probably the fifth guy, and working inside out again, had some good moments in the slot today as a run defender, and then DJ James. So it seems like Isaiah Bolden, that's been the one kind of quieter guy in that cornerback room I've been a little bit surprised of, but we'll see what happens going forward. Then not much from the safeties, with the red area work and a lot on the ground game. Jabril Peppers had a big run stuff. So, doing what he does, getting his nose dirty near the line of scrimmage and near the football, but not too much to look into that safety room there. So anything else defensively, or we can wrap up with special teams here?
Yeah, I think I would just say on the safeties, like they were both out there all day.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about this, and I wrote about this morning, that like the first day of camp overall, the attendance on the first day of pads can be telling. So maybe guys are full go for those first 4 days, and the pads come on and they're doing less. There weren't a ton of guys that had that. Barmore, I guess, kind of. He was limited one day last week, but again, it's impressive that I guess on offense and defense, Jared Wilson and also Kyle Duggar. The fact Kyle Duggar participated in nothing all spring because of injury, and now is full go here, a month and a half later is a good sign.
Definitely involved. I'd say too, and he was healthy, but we talked, Jalen Hawkins was out there a lot in the spring, and we said, okay, maybe that's just because Kyle Duggar's out, but still good amount of Jalen Hawkins, even with those two guys back. So seems like they have a role for Jalen Hawkins in that safety room. But we'll wrap up with special teams because it was an interesting kicking period today. It was a change. Usually it's 8 kicks and they go whichever one starts, and they go alternating between Borregales and Parker Romo from a distance. And then after both of them kick, they'll go to the next distance. Today, it was just Parker Romo. All 6 kicks working between, we had it 30 to 52 yards and a perfect 6 for 6, and not many close calls at all, like all right down the middle. He's been kicking the ball really well this summer. And it was, maybe we get out there tomorrow, I would imagine, and maybe Borregales just gets all 6. But, Parker Romo is not going down without a fight here. And it was another, pretty impressive performance from him today, going 6 for 6 there in those field goal attempts. It's interesting.
Right? Because Borregales won the spring. Romo's been the better kicker through the start of camp. Does Borregales get all 6 kicks tomorrow or the next time they kick? Or is it Romo again? We might have we were kind of saying after the spring, we might not get a real kicker battle. It might be a formality. We might have a real kicker battle.
Might be brewing here. Brewing. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. That'll be interesting. If they just go 6 for Borregales or whatever it may be, but we'll keep an eye on that. There was some punt stuff. Anything stand out to you with that before we wrap up?
He just looked good. Beringer looked good. They were working on punting from, I couldn't tell. They were either just inside the 50. Obviously, you don't necessarily want them punting from there a ton, but I didn't see any touchbacks. He had one that bounced all the way back. It bounced at like the 7 and bounced back outside the 20. But he was doing a good job on those, working on flipping the field there.
Yep, he looks good. So, all right, we'll wrap up. Plugger of the day. What is this? Our 5th show?
5th. So we have so far Kyle Williams, Harold Landry, Drake May, Bryce Beringer, Mike Vrabel, Brian's Phone, Robert Spillane, Javon Baker, and then Pop Douglas is the first player with 2.
So Barth, who was your plugger of the day?
I'll let you go first. Go ahead.
All right. I'll give it to Kayvon Chason. Just the big win in one-on-ones against Marcus Bryant, and then carries that right over 2-11 on 11s with 2 pressures, beat Morgan Moses clean. I thought he was very impressive today. One of the best players on the field. So Kayvon Chason, plugger of the day for me today.
I'm going to go Will Campbell. I look, he had the bad rep early on in the one-on-ones, but football's not played one-on-one. It's played 11 on 11. Once he got into the 11 on 11s, seeing your first-round pick dominate your big money free agent signing, not necessarily what we want from the free agent signing. Great look for the first-round pick. Great look for the first-round pick, and they just gave this guy all this money, and I took over against them. So Still a long way to go with Campbell. Again, those traditional pass sets are going to be big, but I think as far as what he was asked to do today, he did it very well. So pass the first test, more tests to come, but pass the first test. You like to see that.
There you go. Number 4 overall pick on the board with a plugger of the day. So exactly what you want in your first padded practice there. So, all right, we will wrap it up there. Again, day 5, first in pads. Do you think they'll be in pads tomorrow? What are you thinking?
Yeah, probably. So you can do up to 3 days in a row with pads, but if you do 3 days in a row, you have to have 3 calendar days not in pads. But Friday in stadium is going to be pads, and they're off Saturday and Sunday. So they can go.
They could get aggressive with the padded practices.
If they can do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if they want. My guess would be if they're going to have one non-padded practice this week and not including the in-stadium, it would be Wednesday because you go 2 days in pads, kind of slow it down on Wednesday, work on what you need to work on, right? Reset, and then you ramp back up on Thursday as kind of a cleanup day. So that'd be my guess. 1 day in pads, 1 not, and then 2 in just feels a little backwards to me. That's just kind of a gut feeling, but my guess would be pads tomorrow, no on Wednesday, and then they're back in them on Thursday.
I could see it. So hopefully they're
or just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then 2 slow days.
Yeah, because I don't know if they would factor weather in. I think Thursday is going to rain, it looks like, early. So maybe if they know they're going to be like in the bubble or inside, they don't want to go full pads for that. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully tomorrow is in full pads for day 6. But whatever it is, we'll be back to recap it all. So make sure you're locked on to Patriots Press Pass. Like and subscribe there. You can also subscribe wherever else you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Music. And if you are on Patriots Press Pass, we ask you to turn on your notifications so you know exactly when we are going live. Our crossover shows kind of pop right up after the last block of practices, live from Gillette. So make sure if you have your notifications on, you'll know right when we are going live or when any other content is getting posted on there. So again, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications to Patriots Press Pass. You can also follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com for his Patriots training camp coverage online there. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com for our coverage online as well. So thanks everyone for jumping in with us tonight, and we will see you guys back tomorrow.